Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
What if I told you that there was one key thing at your childcare business that can never be replaced with AI? Would you be interested to understand what that is? In today's episode of the Childcare Bridge, I want to go deep into an area that I've touched on a little bit in the past, but it's now coming to ahead. It's coming kind of full circle. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about all things AI. And I'm going to continue to give you the tips, the tricks, the tools, so that you can supplement, augment, and in a lot of places, replace either a particular task or even a particular person with an AI tech stack and AI tools. And what's happening in the industry is that childcare center owners are on this weird space of thinking that AI isn't going to disrupt, but then on that flip side of the coin saying, well, what if it does? Is it one of those things that I can ignore? And I hope that you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast when I've been giving you the stats. And the one stat that does not work in our favor is that most, if not all, of the smaller businesses are not adopting AI technology as quick as they can. So what's occurring is that businesses that are, so the childcare empires that have hundreds of locations and the big franchises, the newer franchises, people that have multiple locations that are like, hey, we're going to use AI here and there. We just worked with the center that we replaced 5 of their people that were in their, we'll call it a call center, for lack of a better phrase, with AI technology. And that savings alone was like $250,000 a year. But now they're able to leverage that money and invest in other areas. So what is the area that is not going to be disrupted? What is that tactic or tool or trend or aspect? And it's very, very simple. It is your brand. It is the makeup of your center, the culture of your center. So let's talk through brand and what does that actually mean? And what does it mean when I say if you have a strong brand, you're going to be able to separate yourself from the pack? So let's look at what is occurring with businesses that are jumping on the AI bandwagon. They're leveraging it for inbound and outbound phone calls. They're leveraging it to book more tours. They're leveraging it to get more leads. They're leveraging it for their newsletters, their email follow-up sequences, their social media posts and social media content. They're using it in the other areas that I've talked through around bookkeeping, and we're going to get into over the next couple of weeks, hiring and systems and strategy. But they're using it at the pace that when you jump on the bandwagon, like things get new and fresh every single day, and there's more stuff you can do and more research, more content. So what ends up happening with that is that things get very fragmented. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace. Consumers have a hard time then differentiating between is something like AI written or AI generated. Now it's getting to the place where there's all of these AI influencers that look very close to real people, but they're not real people. Like they're getting into that awkward dance. So if we know that that's coming, that's occurring, that's going to get more and more and more popular. So there's going to be more stuff out there. When you look at the area that AI can never replace, that is your brand, your stance in the marketplace. When someone goes to Google and types in preschool near me, now whether that's going to be done in Google, I would argue that Google right now, in the next 5 years, maybe 10 on the high side, that search platform will be like the Yellow Pages. Haven't heard of the Yellow Pages? Well, that proves my point right there. It's now being done on platforms like ChatGPT, a tool that we're going to talk a little bit about today and in future episodes called Perplexity. Like, that's where the searches are now being done. Parents are going to these platforms and saying, tell me more about some of the preschool centers near me. What questions should I be asking on tours? And they're getting information. And one of the things that's going to help position you in those results is by having a strong brand. Now, I could give you a list of a whole slew of different things that kind of make up a brand, but let's look at some of the most basic elements in no particular order. The most basic is your brand name. Now, I've talked in previous episodes around one of the things that I really don't like about this industry is that many of you have the exact same name as a center that's nearby, as a center in a different city, a different state. There's a lot of people that reuse the same exact name. The downside of doing that is if you decide to continue to expand, you're building on a brand that you don't necessarily have an easy way to control. Goddard, Primrose, Kids Are Kids, Children's Lighthouse. Those are big brands that have trademark protection so that no one can open up with those names unless you go through this particular franchise. But if you're calling yourself ABC Academy, and I can tell you there are thousands of ABC Academies in the US, you're building on a brand that you cannot legally ever protect. So if you want to stay at a smaller business and have one location, that's fine. And we're going to talk about some of the other brand elements. But if you're looking at expanding, if you're looking at moving into other states, I just got off a conference call earlier today. The center owner has 5 locations in Tennessee. They want to move to a different state and start opening up a few more locations in this particular state, more in Tennessee. And I asked the question around their brand, their trade. Do you have the trademarks? And I knew the answer was no, because you can look that up in about 5 minutes. So from a naming perspective, that's one of the first elements of a brand. Another core element is really what people are saying about you. How are your reviews on your Google business account? What are people saying in the mom groups and the dad groups and the parent groups on Facebook, on Reddit? What are people actually saying about your center? That to me is a lot more of what makes up a brand. What other people are saying about you when you're not in the room. Are they saying it's an affordable place? They're flexible. They have great facilities, an amazing curriculum. They're always innovating. What are the things that other parents are saying? And you build that brand equity by being in the industry for a long time. You build it by obviously taking care of the kids and the families that are coming through, by pushing and asking for reviews. But I am so big on over communicating. I want you to be constantly communicating with all the families that are coming into your centers, all the families that are filling out lead forms, and just over communicating so that they're always seeing your name, your message, and being top of mind. One of my secret sauces for continuing to build a brand in the childcare space is that we're always running ads that are brand-based ads so that people are seeing you. They're seeing the name. They're seeing that on a regular basis in their news feed. The ads don't all have to say, enroll now. You could talk about the good that you're doing in the community. Other elements with the brand are your aesthetics, your design. What does your logo look like? What is the signage? What are your actual facilities and your centers look like? Are they completely up to date and state of the art? Are you a little bit different? Are you traditional? What are all of those elements across your brand? Most marketing people, when you say brand, they think of style guide and logo and colors, and all that stuff is important. But the brand for me is really what the community is starting to say about you. And you build that by being involved in all the community events. Having your name out there, having the booth and the little trade show thing at all these different community events and parades and partnering with schools. That's the stuff that, while I'm a digital marketing expert and a marketing authority, I can't be out there doing, all of your events for you. I can make sure that people are seeing your name everywhere online and all over the place and on YouTube and all of that stuff. But the brand needs to have teeth, and by teeth, like, there needs to be some unique elements to it, and then it needs to have a cohesive strategy, and then you've got to have a culture within your centers that your team abides by, that you're hiring and firing based on, the values that you're holding true at your centers. So if you know that brand is one element, that it doesn't matter how much content another center, if they're going to use AI and they're going to put out 500 blog posts, and they're going to post 10 of these a day, every single day for quite a while. And you're like, oh my, how do I compete with that? A lot of the AI marketing is just noise. If you're constantly working on that brand equity, and I like to start with the solid base and a solid foundation. And to me, that is owning my name. If I'm not owning my name, I'm going to be confined, and or in the future, and this is not legal advice, I'm not an attorney, but if somebody is able to secure a trademark, that's ABC Academy, for example, they're going to be able to have you change your name legally. Now, the thing that works in a lot of these businesses' favor is that when the trademark office goes and they look and they say, well, there's like 500 ABC Academies, so we really can't grant you that. Like, it almost becomes common, I don't know the exact term, but like a commonly searched thing where it's almost the same as just a regular word. They wouldn't award a trademark. But I'm really big on having a name that I own and control and being able to build that, because now I've got protection. I can make sure that I control the narrative. I control what's being put out there that has my brand name. And then you can continue to build on that. How does your website look and the aesthetics? How are your reviews in all the different places? How does your staff speak about your brand, your centers on Indeed and Glassdoor? And I know talking about and thinking about brand isn't the most amazing topic, but when I'm teaching you, here's all the things that AI can replace, replicate, or augment, or automate, all these different things. And I'm saying, well, it's not going to be able to replace your brand. That's going to be one of your biggest competitive advantages. That's why I'm so big on having the centers you work with doing video content of their team and of themselves and the centers and the activities, and obviously only showing kids that have signed that little slip that you're allowed to use their name and likeness, and you have all those areas kind of tied up in a bow and your I's dotted and your T's crossed. But building out those elements and being able to tell your story, your brand story and that founding story, all this stuff you're going to be able to continue to take into the next level regardless of how much stuff is supplemented with AI. You'll own that asset, that brand, and that ends up becoming a staple in the community. Like, a lot of these centers that we work with, they end up becoming a staple. So my challenge for you today is for you to do a bit of a brand audit. Look at your name. Go to the uspto.gov website. Is that already trademarked? You very well might find someone else already has that name trademarked. And while you have never gotten a cease and desist letter, you very easily could. Look at your reviews. Do a review audit across all the platforms. Look at the reviews from your staff. Look at all of that stuff. Your logos. Do you have a brand guide? Is the sign, like, I've seen logos that are done from 50 years ago. And while that's great, things change, trends change, times change. But I want to make sure you have this stuff tied up in a bow. I want to make sure you have it ironed out so that as you're continuing to deploy these different tools and these different technologies, you're able to leverage your brand power to add it on top of everything. But also when you're feeding some of these engines, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Canva, it's working off of your brand elements. It knows more about you so that if it's going to produce content for you and start to help in that area, You're able to load in information about your brands and the reviews and what people are saying and your brand style guides and all of that so that you're getting better outputs. Focus on your brand the next week or so, and then we're going to continue to stack more of these AI tools, these AI technologies to supplement and also to save you money. Get out there, audit your brand, make some tweaks, knowing that it's going to pay off handsomely in the very near future. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.